and also a change in their routine. Look, baseball players are creatures of habit. We all know that. I think broadcasters also are a creature of habit, and their schedule is going to be switched up in a very big way. So we'll talk to Andy Freed about all things Rays baseball coming up at 4 o'clock. In the 5 o'clock hour, you'll want to be with us because we have a big 5 o'clock hour planned. At 5:10, we're going to play Mathis movie trivia. And it's going to be surrounded and based on the movie National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, my favorite Christmas movie. Yes, remember this? This is at the beginning. You know, Clark and his family are out and about looking for their tree. I have 15 questions. There's some fill-in-the-blank questions. There's multiple choice questions. And Chris Mathis, you claim to have seen this movie. I don't know.
I have seen the movie. I am ready to rock. It should be a difficult challenge because there were so many funny moments throughout this movie from start to finish. And I know there's so many different messages along the ways and little things that you picked up on that probably the average did not.
Oof is right. It's Kevin Cash. And we're going to find out just how much knowledge you have retained from the movie Christmas Vacation. So we're going to have that coming up at 5:10. Would you rather at 5:30? We'll take you all the way up until 7 o'clock. So 4 hours of sports talk extravaganza unlike anything you've ever seen here on the program. And we'll get to your phone calls as well. 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. Begin your text with DAE followed by your comments in 140 characters or less so they make their way here. Now, the Buccaneers are back in the practice field today in a very interesting challenge on Sunday as the Bucs are 7-6. They will take on the 8-5 Chargers out in L.A. It's a 4:25 kick from SoFi Stadium on Sunday. You better believe it. And it's one of the games of the week. You just heard Colin Cowherd. He had Mark Sanchez on right at the end of his show. Mark Sanchez is going to be calling that game on Sunday between the Bucs and the Chargers.
Let's hope he doesn't fumble that one away, right?
Oh, come on. What's the matter with you?
No. You insulted him a little bit.
You getting a lot. I can't. Chris Mathis, I mean, what has gotten into you?
I don't know. You pair me with you, and about 2 years later, here we are.
Really? Are you blaming it on me?
No, it's my choice. It's just, I feel a little bit.
You know what you are?
What's that?
You're a sheep.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Come on.
No, I want to lead. I want to be a leader one day.
No.
A sheep?
I don't know.
Oh, come on,
what's
man.
going on there.
I'm a lion.
I don't know, man.
You know that song written by Katy Perry? It was about me. Roar. It was about me.
I don't think so.
No.
But
no, you're exactly right.
We're going to find out at 5:10 how much you remembered about the movie Christmas Vacation.
Those nerds!
That was another different movie.
No, I know. I'm just talking about nerds, about movies.
It is. You know what?
It's got to pay attention to what's happening.
There will be a couple of questions that are going to be focused in on details of the movie. And there will be multiple choice because I think you're going to need some help in that area. But look, you guys can play along as well. That's the great thing about movie trivia. We're going to find out, Chris Mathis, I don't know how you went this long without seeing some of the movies that, you should have seen maybe years ago.
Maybe I was just too focused on my craft as a young man.
I don't know about...
Maybe I just pushed it off to the side. And I really do think that's what happened. I was solely just driven to reach my one goal of getting here. I didn't go to parties in high school. I didn't go to prom in high school. I had no interest in any of that. I just wanted to broadcast.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Boy, you led a very interesting upbringing there. Sheltered. It sounded like you were sheltered a little bit.
No, I wasn't sheltered. I chose to stay on path with what I wanted.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Kevin. Oh, no, Eric DeAndy. That was not Kevin Cash.
All right. Very interesting. You are definitely one of a kind, Chris Mathis. And we're glad to have you here on this show, on the drive. It is great. And we're going to find out how much you know about this movie coming up, and you guys can play along as well. So the Buccaneers. I was on Instagram, and I don't go on what the kids call IG. a whole lot there, Chris Mathis. But, sometimes I get notifications. I go on there, and what was it, yesterday or the day before? Monday. All these days meld together. So I made the statement on Monday, if you want to prove you're a playoff team, if you're the Buccaneers, go on and beat the Chargers. And, boy, a lot of people lost their minds over that quote. We beat the Eagles, or we beat the Commanders, or we beat the Lions. The Lions was a good win. It was also like 3 months ago, believe it or not. And the Commanders was on opening day. That was the perfect time to play a rookie quarterback making his NFL debut. You play him on opening day. Look, the Bucs took care of business. That's good. And when they played the Eagles, they played an Eagles team without A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. These are all facts. So the Bucs have kind of, strung along. They came out of the bye, and look, they won 3 games in a row. And thanks to a collapse by the Falcons, they're now back in first place in the NFC South. Now there's 4 games to go. By no means have the Buccaneers clinched anything, because they have a difficult matchup, despite what some of you are saying. And the Falcons matchup is not so difficult, as they take on the Raiders, who the Bucs just beat 28-13 on Monday night. A Raiders team that could have Aiden O'Connell back. I was just looking on the Twitter, and it looks like Aiden O'Connell, or X, or whatever the hell you call it, Aiden O'Connell might have a shot to play this week, according to Antonio Pierce. So if it's not him, it's Desmond Ridder. We'll keep an eye on that. And obviously, the Buccaneers are rooting hard for the Raiders on that Monday night game. But first things first, the Bucs have to figure out a way to beat a good Chargers team that is 8-5. The positives and negatives approaching this matchup on Sunday, that is the theme of our opening drive.
Start the engine. Gas to the floor. Here's the opening drive.
So, Todd Bowles and Baker Mayfield both spoke with the media today, and Todd Bowles was asked about this Chargers team. They're 8-5, coached by Jim Harbaugh, really good defense, outstanding quarterback. What makes this team so tough? Here's the head coach of your Buccaneers.
Tough-minded. Huge up front. Both sides of the ball, stop the run and run the ball. They do a very good job of time of possession. They can play action and hit you deep. Quarterback can do a lot of things, but they don't beat themselves. So we got to play clean football.
He's right about that, and they don't beat themselves. And the Chargers are coming off a very disappointing game last Sunday in Arrowhead. They had the Chiefs. They had them. And then Patrick Mahomes did what Patrick Mahomes always does, and he did it against the Bucs too, in that overtime win from a few weeks ago on primetime. He extends plays. He finds a wide-open Travis Kelce. They set up a game-winning field goal that, boing, it went off the upright and through for the game-winning field goal as time expired. So, if you're looking for some positives, that was a devastating loss for the Chargers last week. And if you're a Bucs fan, you're hoping maybe there's some sort of hangover effect. I think Jim Harbaugh will get them ready to play because he's a very good coach and they pay attention to the details. But maybe, just maybe, there's a hangover effect from that crushing loss to the Chiefs. The other thing that's plaguing the Chargers, and it's plaguing the Bucs and just about every other team, are the injuries. Their best receiver is Ladd McConkey, a second-round pick out of Georgia, who's been fantastic. But he missed last week's game with a number of injuries, and he's very questionable for the game coming up this week. And look, their running game was going really well until J.K. Dobbins got hurt a couple of weeks ago. Now they have Gus Edwards as their starting running back, and their running game has really gone south the last 2 weeks without J.K. Dobbins in there. So those are some of the negatives when it comes to this Chargers team. The positives are, really good things that you need to have. They're a well-coached team. Jim Harbaugh, tremendous coach. And in 1 year, he has turned that team completely around. They also have the number 1 defense in the NFL when it comes to points against. Under 16 points per game is what they allow on average. And They have a number of pass rushers that they will throw at you. The Buccaneers will see this on Sunday. Baker Mayfield last week against the Raiders, especially in that second quarter, he got sacked 4 times. He turned it over 3 times. You look at this Chargers team, they still have Khalil Mack. They still have Joey Bosa. They got this kid, Tuli Tuapolo-Lotu, or whatever his name is. He's really good. Ferocious pass rusher coming in off the edge. Poona Ford also can push it from inside. So their front 7 is solid. They've got playmakers on the back end. Derwin James, of course, Florida State product, having a great year. Christian Fulton, the kid, Tarheeb Still, a 4th-round pick out of Maryland. He had the pick 6 against Kirk Cousins from a couple of weeks ago. The Chargers picking off Kirk Cousins 4 times in that game. So if you're Baker Mayfield, this is one of those games where you need to play a clean game. You can't take chances. We play the comments from Todd Bowles. Remember what he said yesterday? Hey, listen, we got to stop turning it over in the red zone, and that was a not-so-subtle, I don't want to call it a shot, but a message to Baker Mayfield. You get down there, we got to come out of there with at least 3, and don't throw the ball up for grabs because this Charger team will go get it. By the way, Baker Mayfield was asked about those interceptions and how he bounces back from those INTs. Baker Mayfield speaking today about that.
Yeah, I'm not exactly a great example of positive self-talk. But just hit the reset button, go through it, look at the pictures on the sideline, and then move on. And this is, we need everybody to do their job each play, so I have to be, the tone setter when it comes to that. If I'm making a bad play, it's the next one. Let's move on. Let's make it happen.
And he's right. You got to have a short memory, kind of like a defensive back who gets beat on a long one by a wide receiver. You got to put it out of your system. You got to go on to the next play. On to the next play. And Baker did a really good job of that. And he did a really good job of that a couple of weeks ago in Carolina where he also didn't play his best ball. Look, for 2 straight weeks, you haven't seen consistent football. You've seen some mistakes out of the quarterback position. And you want to get to the playoffs, the quarterback play has to clean itself up. And he understands that. I'm not trying to do anything of the sort, okay? And you understand that too, Baker. You know that, your play has to tighten up, especially against a good defense like the Chargers. The Chargers can get after you. And they've got guys on the back end who can make some plays and force some turnovers, and that's what it's all about. But the thing you like about this Bucs team, and I was also making mention of this the other day, they're the second youngest team in the NFL. And to transition from being one of the oldest teams when Brady was here, and obviously Jason Light has done an incredible job through the draft. He's done a really good job of getting into a much better position cap-wise. They were able to get Baker Mayfield back on a 3-year, $100 million deal. If you look at some of the other quarterbacks in this league who are making a heck of a lot more money, that's one of the best bargains in all of football. And they've got a lot of really good young players that they can build around, which is great. And these guys are also showing some mental toughness as well. And that was one of the things that Baker Mayfield talked about today, just how mentally tough this locker room has been.
It's an unbelievable group, and that's what wanted to make me come back here. I wanted that just because of the group that we have, the key pieces here, the culture that's been set far before I was here, and just for guys to be able to actually hit the reset button and say, if I just do my job and we play for each other and play together, good things are going to happen. So it's really rare to have, but it's what makes this group so special.
Positive thinking, and look, for the Buccaneers, it has been positive, and I think that bye week came at a great time. It was after the Niner game. They had dropped their 4th in a row. There was not a lot of good feelings. It was negative vibes, negative energy. And then you go into the bye, you kind of refocus, you take a step back. It allowed for guys to heal. And they knew that coming out of the bye, they had 3 very winnable games. The Giants game was great because the Giants didn't put up any sort of fight whatsoever. I mean, right now, and I never thought I'd say this about the Giants organization, they're upside down. They're dysfunctional. And I think they're looking at some sweeping changes. By the way, Vito the Guido, whatever his name is, he was the starting quarterback in that game, and Baker Mayfield, did the whole touchdown celebration thing. It looks like Tony Ronzoni, or whatever his name is going.
Slapdick prospect.
He's starting this week for the Giants. Hey, what's the matter with you? The Giants are playing host to the Ravens, a Ravens team that's pretty angry coming out of the bye.
Over under half a celebration from DeVito against the Ravens. The classic hands up.
No, I don't think that's happening on Sunday. No.
Zero. Taking under half.
Zero.
All right.
I'm going under on that. I think Lamar Jackson's upset. Ravens went into the bye. They weren't playing really good football. I think they're going to come out of the bye, and I think the Giants are going to get smoked on Sunday. Smoked. And that's a big spread, too. I think that's a 2-touchdown spread. And the Giants are home, I believe. Look that up with a Hard Rock Bet app there, Chris Mathis. Giants are home, and I think that's a 14-point spread for Sunday's game. And that's all you need to know about,
it's actually gone up.
What?
It's a 16-point spread.
Oh, my
16,
goodness.
Giants the home team.
The Ravens on the road are a 16-point favorite. Vegas is just begging you to take the Giants plus the points at home. I would stay away from that game at all costs, but that is unbelievable. You don't see spreads like that in the NFL where a road team is favored by 16. That shows you how bad, how far the New York Football Giants have fallen. But the Bucs came out of the bye, and they handled the Giants. And then they went to Carolina. And that game, and I talked about it all week, that game scared me. That game was a trap game. The Panthers were playing better, and lo and behold, that game went right down to the wire, went into overtime. Bucs probably should have lost that game if it hadn't been for babyface Nelson stripping Chuba Hubbard, recovering the fumble. And then Baker made a couple of big plays and a big run by Rachaad White to set up the game-winning field goal. And then last week against the Raiders, great first quarter. It was a great start to the game. And then the second quarter, things kind of fell apart. Raiders got the ball first to begin the third quarter. They go on this marathon drive of 9+ minutes. And down in the red zone, the biggest play of the game was made by TKras Smith, covering his former college teammate Brock Bowers. He came up with a very big interception. I don't know where this Bucs team would be had TKras Smith not make that play last week. Maybe the Raiders score a touchdown, and maybe that game is completely different. And I don't know where this Bucs team would be without Anthony Nelson doing what he did from 2 weeks ago. Or else the Buccaneers would have lost to Carolina without a question, without a shadow of a doubt. I don't think these people on Instagram kind of know that. Maybe they were like hungover or something. Do some of you like watch the games, or do you use the Force? That's what I want to know. 888-546-4620.
So based on those last two games, Tom, if that trajectory were to happen here against the Chargers on Sunday, should have a lesser-named player come up big and maybe be the difference maker in the game.
Kayvon Merriweather, maybe. I mean, there have been so many injuries on the back end. Maybe him, maybe Chris Izien. Chris Izien came up big in, the Lions game. I mean, the Lions were awful in the red zone, and the Bucs played a classic bend but don't break style. And look, that's what they do defensively because they're shorthanded. They're not getting enough pressure on the passer the last couple of weeks. And when they get down into the red zone, it gets crowded down there. Somebody's got to make a play. Anthony Nelson did 2 weeks ago. TKras Smith did last week. Who's going to make it this week? I'm looking at Yaya Diaby. He hasn't done much. He's getting some pressures, but, he's not affecting the quarterback as much as he did from a year ago when, as a rookie, he led this Buccaneer team in sacks. The quarterback hits are there. The pressures are there, but, if you're Todd Bowles, you want to see splash plays out of Yaya Diaby. He's got 2 sacks in 13 games. Yaya Diaby needs to step forward in a big way. If the Bucs are going to threaten the Chargers and knock them off and upset them on Sunday, you got to get to Justin Herbert. And the way to do that is your money guys, the guys that you rely on, that you lean on, have to play a big role. Yaya Diaby's on the spot. 2 sacks through 13 games. I don't think that's what he expected. I know that's not what Todd Bowles expected out of him in year number 2. He's got to come forward in a very big way. All right, great to have you with us. The Drive with yours truly. It's a wacky and wild and wet Wednesday afternoon with that cold front moving through, so be careful out there. It's windy, cold air coming in tonight. It's going to get mighty nipply. Did I say nipple? Christmas vacation, Chris Mathis. Come on.
I caught on, man. That was exceptional.
Yeah. It's a bit nipply. I mean, nippy. What am I saying?
I know the clothing article that he was looking at, but we'll maybe have that be a question during Mathis movie trivia later on.
You never know. Mathis movie trivia surrounding Christmas vacation is coming up. You see how I, incorporated that in there with the cold front. It's getting colder and nippy. Christmas vacation. But that's coming up at 5:10, and you can play along as well. 15 questions. We'll find out if Chris Mathis can pass the eye test. Tell you what, that chick from the department store, she passed the eye test back in the day. I wish I had friends like that. All right, coming up, your calls and texts on the Buccaneers. Pros, cons, Sunday's game against the Chargers. Can the Buccaneers come up with a big win against Justin Herbert and company? 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. Who's on the spot this week? We'll get into the Bucs. We'll get into some NFL. Major League Baseball hot stove is heating up. Big moves made by some Rays rivals. And what's the Rays' next big move? Do they have one in them? We'll talk about that coming up next on The Drive.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
Guys, only 14 shopping days left until Christmas. You've got 2 weeks, and if you've got a wife or a girlfriend, if you're looking for that very special gift, head on over to the Golden Diamond Source because this holiday season, you can make her jaw drop with a perfect piece to show her she's one of a kind. And if you're looking for a gift that says forever, you can find stunning engagement rings, diamond bracelets, and more at the Golden Diamond Source because she deserves the best. Don't settle for anything less than perfection. At the Golden Diamond Source, we make it easy to give a gift that she will never forget. The Golden Diamond Source experts are there. They will help you find the perfect gift for everyone without dealing with all that mall madness. From statement necklaces to elegant diamond earrings, the Golden Diamond Source is the only place to shop for that gift of a lifetime. And guys, you can finance your purchase with 0% interest for up to 5 years. For example, you get a $5,000 diamond for only $84 a month. So this holiday season, make your way over to the Golden Diamond Source where you always find the perfect gift with 2 weeks left to go until Christmas. Check them out. 30
this year was a disappointment to us, and we've reached a place where 80 wins is a disappointment, and we're fortunate about where we've been competitively. We got some stuff in front of us here as we look ahead, but if it's Cashy, our group, we're confident we're going to get back to where we were the last 5 years.
That's Eric Neander on the MLB Network, the Rays president of baseball operations, talking about the plight of his team, disappointing 2024, 80 victories, all the injuries, the no offense, and then a couple of hurricanes. The Trop it's not gone, but severely damaged. Now they got to play at Steinbrenner Field. What's the next move for the Rays? They did sign a catcher, by the way, Danny Jansen. Good defensively, right-handed hitting catcher, can hit some home runs. I think he's going to make for a good platoon with Ben Rortvedt. As we welcome you back, it is The Drive with yours truly, TKras, Tom Krasnicki. You got Chris Mathis on the other side. You on the phones, 888-546-4620. Text at 82945 on the Bartow 4 DA text platform, where standard message and data rates do apply there. We'll talk more about the Rays with Andy Freed, Rays Radio, play-by-play man. He will join us coming up at 4:05. And listen, we'll get his thoughts on, what the next move for the Rays will be. We know what their rivals are doing. Red Sox are looking to spend money. They were in it on Juan Soto. They offered $700 million. The Mets went to $765. Tough luck. The Yankees have lost Juan Soto. They lost Clay Holmes, but they rebounded yesterday and they signed Max Fried to an 8-year deal worth over $200 million. Fried, by the way, as you know, has had a number of issues injury-wise over the last couple of years. He started just 14 games last year. So, the Yankees, I thought, were in a position where, look, they lost Juan Soto. I don't know if Hal Steinbrenner was in a panic mode, but look, if Max Fried stays healthy, he's a tremendous pitcher. But health, obviously, has been his biggest challenge over the last couple of years. But the Yankees had to do something. Max Fried stays healthy, he's a tremendous pitcher. But health, obviously, has been his biggest challenge over the last couple of years. But the Yankees had to do something. They got Garrett Cole back. Now they got Fried, and now they've got a pretty good starting rotation. This is what the Rays have to deal with. By the way, the Red Sox, they have struck gold. Garrett Crochet is going to Boston for a number of prospects. Another really good starting pitcher. Garrett Crochet goes to the Red Sox. That according to ESPN.com. So you've got the Yankees doing what they're doing with Max Fried, Garrett Crochet, the Red Sox for a number of different prospects. And we all know how dominant he was from a year ago. 25-year-old pitcher, man. 25 years old, struck out over 200 batters. Tremendous fastball, great slider, and now he goes to Boston. And they already had a pretty good starting rotation. Now they add to it. Now they've got an ace. So, everyone else is loading up in this Rays division. Now the Rays will have Shane McClanahan coming back. Our guy Ryan Pepio, Taj Bradley right at the top. Zach Littell, Jeffrey Springs. So they've got a number of guys in that starting rotation. The Rays do have some really good depth there. Their bullpen, I think, will be galvanized by some of the moves they made. Hunter Biggie, I think, is going to be a really big part of their bullpen. They had some young guys that came in and contributed. I got a text yesterday or the day before on the Bartow 4 DA text platform, and somebody said, can you please explain to me, Tom, why you think the Rays are going to be really good in this coming season? And I just mentioned, they've got some really good pitching. They've got some really good guys coming back. And Eric Neander went through the process of totally revamping his bullpen because he made a number of trades, as you guys know. And the Rays kind of reloaded. And Mason Montgomery's a guy, a lefty, with really nasty stuff. And you saw him toward the end of last year. That's a guy who's going to help the Rays. What a great arm he is. And Hunter Biggie's going to be a guy that really kind of figures into the mix. Manuel Rodriguez did some really good things. Edwin Uceta did some really good things. So Eric Neander completely turned over his bullpen, and all these guys are high-end arms who can throw 98. Remember when Kevin Cash said a couple years ago, I got a whole stable of guys? Well, now he's got a whole new stable of guys who can throw 98. You know, Shane Boz is another guy that kind of figures in to their starting rotation. But hopefully Pete Fairbanks can come back healthy. They traded Jason Adam. They got a boatload in return for him. The Rays have one of the deepest farm systems. So from a pitching perspective, I think the Rays are fine. What they need is more offense. Now, they're not going to be in the mix for any high-end free agents, as you know. They're playing games at Steinbrenner Field. Their revenues are going to take a big hit. And it's not like the Rays go out and spend a whole lot anyways. I mean, they're calculated with the guys that they try and throw a lot of money to. They did chase Aaron Judge a couple of years ago. They did chase Freddie Freeman a couple of years ago, and they lost out. But they did offer those guys a lot of money. So the Rays pick and choose their spots where, you know, they'll try and go after a guy that they think that can really help them. And I don't know what the future is with the stadium situation. We're going to find out next week. The Pinellas County Commission meets next Tuesday. And there is some growing optimism that maybe they approve the bonds. We'll see. And then they'll put the Rays on the spot. Like, hey, now it's your turn. We approve the money. You got to come up with your $700 million, and the cost overruns are going to be on you. And the Rays are barking at that. I think they're trying to, you know, exercise some leverage if they can. I just don't know what kind of leverage they have at this point. I think Stu is certainly hard up for some money. You're not going to see any big money spending. I think Eric Neander's got to get really creative if he wants to bring a bat in here. He's got a lot of assets, a surplus of starting pitching, and I think he's going to use one of those guys. He's going to use one of his top prospects or two. And he's going to make a trade for somebody who's got team control, who the Rays can control. That's exactly how they're going to go about it. 888-546-4620. That's the phone number. We'll talk to Andy Freed. He's going to join us coming up at 4:05. Christmas vacation, movie trivia at 5:10. Would you rather at 5:30? Now, normally, Barrett Saleh's got a family situation. We normally talk college football with him 3:30 every Wednesday, but he's got to tend to a family matter, so thoughts and prayers with him and his family at this point, and hopefully he'll be back on the show next week. But we'll take your calls and texts on all of this coming up. Also coming up, some news out of the NFL as we get set for Week 15 in the NFL. What do the playoff races look like in the AFC and NFC? We're going to get into that, too. Coming up next, this is The Drive.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
It is The Drive, and it's presented by our guys over at Moss Nissan, where their goal is to never lose your business over price. Yours truly here. Chris Mathis is here. And the holidays are here, too. And Moss Nissan is doing whatever it takes to make this season unforgettable with your shot at up to $5,000 in holiday cash.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Here is the game plan. Go visit any of the 3 Moss Nissan locations. Pick out a new or a pre-owned vehicle. Once the deal is done, you'll grab an envelope from their holiday tree.
And inside that envelope, you can score anywhere from $500 to $5,000 in holiday cash. And with over $30,000 on the line, Moss Nissan is bringing that holiday magic.
So don't miss your chance at the big win, up to $5,000 in holiday cash. Head to Moss Nissan today.
They've got 3 locations, Tampa, Newport Richie, or Brooksville. I'm now being told that we will be at Moss Nissan in Newport Richie on Friday for Football Friday. So not tomorrow, but Friday, we'll be at Moss Nissan up in Newport Richie. So we're looking forward to seeing you guys there. And we'll also have some drive
On select computers. In-store only. Offer ends 12/28. Unread. Huge holiday savings at Staples.
Take WDAE with you.
It's been highly effective for the Knicks. They're coming off a win against Toronto, 113-108 from the other night. You know, Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns certainly were right at the forefront of it. Karl Anthony Towns had 24 points in that game. So he is learning how to play the two-man game with Jalen Brunson, and really it's a nice thing to watch.
Now the Atlanta Hawks are coming off of a blowout loss to Denver that I believe they lost by 30 points. Fortunately, though, the Hawks are good on the road as of late, Tom. And with a win tonight, that's 4 consecutive road victories. Trae Young, the point guard, scoring nearly 21 points per game right now. He's got to be the floor general, of course, for this Hawks team to have success. But more importantly, he's going to have to score more than 21 tonight.
He sure does, because the Knicks can certainly fill it up with a lot of different guys who can shoot it. Constructing a W presented by CMK Construction, proudly serving Tampa Bay and Sarasota communities. Call them today, 813-321-4426, or online, cmkconstructioninc.com. Together, we'll make tomorrow brighter. So there is an update on the football side of things. Bill Belichick and North Carolina appear to be getting closer to a deal. I can't believe that this thing might actually happen. According to sources, the ball is in Bill Belichick's court. So he has made a number of demands, if you will. If he's going to take this job, he wants X, Y, and Z, and everything else in between. Belichick is 72. I think one of the contingencies, if you will, was the fact that he wants his son to take over when he's had enough of this. I just don't think that this is a good fit for either guy, for either party. Bill Belichick wants to chase Don Shula's record for being the NFL's winningest head coach. He's not going to do that in North Carolina. And in North Carolina, you're getting a 72-year-old guy who's admittedly a great coach. There's no question about his credentials, but it's been on the NFL side, not on the college side. The landscape in college football has changed dramatically, especially in the last 3 years. There's NIL, there's a transfer portal. Can a 72-year-old man deal with 18, 19, 20-year-old guys? That's also another question. Chemistry. I know he's got a girlfriend in her 20s, so he's done a good job of recruiting her. But, but I'm just saying, this is a different ball game now for him. Now, I talked about this yesterday, and this kind of feels like his agent is probably not getting positive feedback or any sort of really positive vibes from any of the NFL teams. That right now there's 3 teams that have fired a coach, and I think there will be more after the season, and there's always a surprise firing or two, but there'll probably be like 7 openings. You mean to tell me his agent, and look, this happens all the time, even when there are no openings, there are agents that reach out to teams and vice versa. When a team is thinking about firing a coach, the first thing they do is they start canvassing their potential prospects. and who they might be targeting. Happens all the time. Even before you fire the guy, you're trying to line up his replacement. It's possible that some teams have been in contact with Bill Belichick, and they're like, well, where do you stand on the personnel issue? You're a good coach, one of the greats of all time. Obviously, he won all 6 with Tom Brady. He didn't win any without him. And Tommy Boy won 1, of course, here in Tampa Bay without Bill Belichick. I think Bill Belichick is still a really, really good coach, a really smart coach. But when it comes to personnel and drafting, hands off. If you let that guy take over the whole kit and caboodle, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And that's one of the main reasons why the Patriots crumbled without Tom Brady there, is that Bill Belichick did a terrible job of drafting, and he drove that team into the ground. And that's why Robert Kraft said, you out.
You out.
Also, you said a ball is in the court. I know we got to get to this phone call, I'm sure, by Craig, but ball is in the court of Bill Belichick. I think, and I don't know if this is bold or anything of that nature, but I believe that that ball is going to be deflated. So this is not going to work out between the two parties. Get it, Patriots, Deflategate?
Yeah. Oh, that's terrific there, Chris Mathis. Listen, I don't have control over the cursor. You're going to have to bring up.
You want to get Craig on?
Yeah, let's get Craig.
He wants to talk Buccaneers and
Buccaneers.
Chargers.
Fire the cannons. Craig, what do you want?
I'm going to the game with my dad on Sunday, so we're going to try to bring home a W.
Great.
Everybody. Listen, I know that the Chargers are a good team, but have you looked at who they've beaten this year? I think Denver's their best win. They did not score a offensive touchdown in the second half against Atlanta when they beat them a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a team, if you put them behind early, it's going to be hard for them to chase the game with their offense, especially with all the injuries they have. They lost their tight end, obviously, with J.K. out too. Gus Edwards not a breakaway back. I think if you can get off to that hot start and just not turn the ball over, I think we'll be okay. And Chris, remember this line? Surprise, Clark? Wouldn't be more surprised if.
Oh, he's not going. He's not going to finish that.
Oh, no, I'm not, Craig.
Okay.
I'm already 0 for 1, according to my test.
This is not a good sign, Chris Mathis.
No, this is not a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Craig, enjoy the game on Sunday, my friend. All right.
We'll bring home a W. We'll call you after the game.
All right, that's terrific. All right, get out now.
Come on, get out of here!
The Chargers are not a great team. They're a good team. They're a well-coached team. They've got a very good quarterback. Yes, offensively, there are some challenges there. They lost J.K. Dobbins. Ladd McConkey was out last week. The rookie is their leading receiver. Who knows what his status is this week? The injury report is going to come out a little bit later than usual because the Chargers are out west. Oh, boy. And Will Dissly is their tight end. He hurt his shoulder. He's going to be out this week. And that's a shame because, as you know, tight ends have been lining up the Buccaneers the last several weeks. But
until Brock Bowers.
They held them down. They did hold them down, but the tight ends before him, whether it was Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts, or
Jack
Mayhoff or George Kittle, they were doing a number against his Buccaneer defense. But give Todd Bowles credit because, he did a wonderful job. He had a lot of injuries at linebacker, so when you put one linebacker out there on most instances, Levante David was out there. He had a number of defensive backs, and that's usually a look that you could run against. And the Chargers can't really run the football all that well, quite honestly. All right, 1 hour down. We'll get more into this coming up in the next 3 hours as we'll take you up until 7 o'clock. We've got Mathis movie trivia on Christmas Vacation. I don't think that's going to go well. That's at 5:10. Would you rather at 5:30? When we come back to Rays baseball. They made a big acquisition in terms of a catcher. Can we expect any other big moves? And what about the transition from the Trop to Steinbrenner Field? We'll talk to our guy, Rays radio play-by-play man, the great Andy Freed. He will join us coming up next.
You're tuned in to The Drive with TKras.
2 weeks to go until Christmas, guys. And if you're thinking about that very special, one-of-a-kind gift for the wife, the girlfriend. If you're thinking about popping the big question, you can make her jaw drop by going to the Golden Diamond Source this holiday season. If you're looking for that gift that says forever, you can find stunning engagement rings, diamond bracelets, and more at the Golden Diamond Source because she deserves the best. Don't settle for anything less than perfection. At the Golden Diamond Source, we make it easy to give her the gift that she will never forget. The Golden Diamond Source has experts that will help you find the perfect gift for everyone on your shopping list without dealing with all that mall madness. Forget about that. Head on over to Golden Diamond Source. It's huge. It's like shopping, 4 or 5 different jewelry stores under one roof. They've got a wide selection from statement necklaces to elegant diamond earrings. The Golden Diamond Source is the only place to shop for that gift of a lifetime. And guys, you can finance your purchase with 0% interest for up to 5 years. For example, you get a $5,000 diamond for only $84 a month. So this holiday season, visit the Golden Diamond Source where you always find the perfect gift. They're at 3800 Omerta Road in Clearwater. Always online at goldendiamond.com. Tell them TKras sent you.
620 WDAE St. Petersburg, an iHeart radio station. It's Wednesday from Riverview to Spring Hill and all around Tampa Bay, plus worldwide on iHeartRadio.
The gloves are off. I'm playing hardball. It's 4th and 15, and you're looking at a full court press.
You're tuned into the voice of the Tampa Bay sports fan.
You're gonna like this guy. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us.
Buckle up, because you're on the drive with TKras. Afternoons on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
The consistency, the energy, the love for the game, he was born to do it. You know, he is as authentic as they come. And look, like I said, we're playing and very thankful to the Yankees for allowing us, us to use their facility. And we're gonna lean into this. We got to try to galvanize this group. I think we have the right personnel, both staff and players, to do it, but he's at the forefront of it.
Eric Neander, the Rays president of baseball operations, speaking at the winter meetings. He's got high praise for Kevin Cash. And look, Cashy has been under a lot of adversity for many, many years. A team with offensive problems, a team with a lot of injuries, but he has always found the way to pull them through it. And now the Rays have a whole new set of problems that begin with not playing in their own ballpark. They'll be at Steinbrenner Field. They have made a move for a catcher. But what's next for the Rays in this Major League Baseball hot stove season? Welcome back. Good afternoon, Tampa Bay. 4:06 on your ride home. The Drive with TKras presented by Moss Nissan. Chris Mathis on the other side. More of your calls and texts coming up. We've got movie trivia surrounding Christmas Vacation, one of my favorites, actually my favorite Christmas movie, coming up in an hour from now, the 5 o'clock hour, as well as Would You Rather. We'll take you all the way up until 7 o'clock. But let's get more on the Rays right now. He's standing by on the Central Florida Behavioral Health Network DA hotline. Learn more at cfbhn.org. He's our guy, Rays radio play-by-play extraordinaire. Andy Freed is back with us here on The Drive. Andy, how's the offseason going, buddy?
TKras, every time I hear the open to your show, I love coming on at the top of the hour because I hear it so clearly. I picture you in a sports car, scarf on, glasses partially down on your nose, hair slicked back, seat pushed all the way back, and just revving that engine. And you look over to the guy next to you, and you point to your eyes, and you point to his eyes, and you are ready to take him in a race, man. Every time I hear that open, I picture you in that way.
Well, I love it. And I thought you were going to make mention of Frank Drebin in the open. It's 4th and 15, and you're looking at a full court press. One of the great lines.
It's so great.
Yeah, from Naked Gun. That's why I wanted that in there. He touches on all four major sports, in one statement. How's the offseason going?
Nelson was the best.
He was, man. He was a comedic genius. So how's it going with you, man? How's this offseason treating you? It's been a busy one.
Fine. Fine. Everything is good. I'm very excited about the signing of Danny Jansen. I mean, let's be honest. Ben Rortvedt was a really good pickup. And remember, they picked him up, hours before opening day last year. Where would they have been without him? It was disappointing with what happened with Rene Pinto. And then Alex Jackson certainly did not appear to be the answer. So they needed a bat. And to me, Jansen's that perfect sort of race pickup where he has a good body of work coming off an injured season. And here we go with the first cliche of the year. If he's healthy and is able to stay healthy, I think he adds a lot to the Rays. I'm curious where they'll bat him in the order. I know the Blue Jays tended to have him at the bottom of the order, and he was kind of one of those sneaky hitters toward the bottom of the order. You think you're past the big guys, and then he's got power, kind of like the way the Rays had Kiermaier towards the bottom of the order, and he'd have sneaky power. I think Jansen could be one of those guys too. But more than anything, defensively, he's a really good blocker. He's got a very good arm, and he's a right-hand hitter, so I think he's everything the Rays needed at that position.
I think you're right. I think he is the perfect fit here. He's really good defensively. He's a right-handed guy. Rortvedt's a lefty. I think that's the perfect platoon, and they're going to be leaning on those guys, obviously, very early on. And it's going to be a very interesting season because with the Trop being damaged from Milton, you're now moving into Steinbrenner Field. The home games are now going to be front-loaded to, avoid the rainy season and the hot conditions and everything else. So Tell me how that plays into the Rays line of thinking maybe this offseason into, how they shape this team. Does that affect it at all, you think?
Yeah, I think it ends up being, 49 of the first 63 games are at home, but then only 61 of the last 103, something like that. So it's really going to be 2 seasons, mostly at home and then mostly on the road. I am a proud alum for 2 years of the Florida State League, and I can tell you that weather absolutely affects everything. Now, what Kevin Cash was saying yesterday, and I know you guys were playing the clips also, is that he's less concerned about the rain and more concerned about the heat. It can tend to wear you down. There's no question about that. But I'll say this. These guys are young, and they're in great shape, and the Rays trainers do a really good job of keeping them hydrated. I mean, I think it's a different situation than when the Blue Jays were in Dunedin a couple of years back. I think the Rays recognize that this is going to be their home for 1 year. And honestly, I've been here since, what have I been here since 2005, and how many times have I heard the saying, if we were only in Tampa? Well, the fans on the Tampa side now get a chance to, along with the fans still from St. Pete and all over, to sell the place out every night. I mean, if there's 11,026 seats, I mean, in my mind, and the Rays averaged, about 16 last year, that the place could be packed every night and heavily in the Rays' favor. So I'm greatly looking forward to that. The facility itself is great for what this condition is. It's going to be weird. It's going to be awkward. But as we've learned in other years past, the Rays are very good in weird and awkward seasons.
Andy Fried is with me, Rays radio play-by-play extraordinaire here on The Drive. And look, I think the Rays and their brain trust, they're very smart people, Andy, as you know, and they're looking at it like this. Okay, we're now in Steinbrenner Field. It's shaped very much like Yankee Stadium, which means a short right field porch, which means a guy like Brandon Lau could be the biggest beneficiary. If he stays healthy, if he plays 120 games, there's no reason in my mind why he can't hit 30 home runs. Am I right?
How about Josh Lowe also? Both of those guys. To me, the left hand, and Palacios too, for that matter, I think they could all benefit from it. It's interesting because I've never quite felt like when I go to Yankee Stadium the third, or as Dave liked to say, the replica, which seemed to irritate Yankee fans. To me, that right field seems shorter than how they list it. I've never felt, just from the eye in watching the spring training games there, that it's as short as what they say it is in the Bronx. So, I'm curious to see how it plays. I do know that when we played the Blue Jays in Dunedin in the big league games back in, 21, the ball really did fly, and let's be honest, too. I mean, we haven't played outdoor baseball in the summertime outside of the Florida State League kids ever here in Tampa Bay in terms of the big league club. So I think home runs overall are going to go up. Tropicana Field I think it's one of the more fair ballparks in the game because a home run is really a home run. The alleys are power alleys. You got to have some power to get it over there. And center field is 404. I think we're going to see the power go up. And if there's a year where the Rays needed to have some increased offense, this is the year. That was the drag on this team from the very beginning to the very end last year. They just couldn't score enough runs. And to me, it showed just how good the pitching was. That the Rays were that good. They had one of the best records in one-run games in all of baseball, one of the best one-run game records in the history of the Rays. So, okay, does that mean that if the Rays then can score just a few more runs, that they could really take off? I mean, that's the optimistic view of it, but to me, there's some basis to it.
There is, and they've got to find more offense, and the guys we just talked about, Brandon Lau and Josh Lowe, they'll be relied upon heavily, and I'm also looking at a guy like Junior Caminero. We saw him for 43 games, Andy, and I think he's just scratching the surface of how great he can be as an offensive player. And if the Rays are going to improve in 2025, it's going to be a guy like Caminero who takes that next step. So, give us a glimpse, give us an idea as to how great you think he can be.
I saw some pretty incredible things last year. I think the series for him in Los Angeles was really the coming out party when he had a ninth-inning home run and he was hitting to the left field corner, he was hitting to the alley in left center, and everything off his bat was loud. I still think there's going to be a learning curve for him, though, in the major leagues, as there is for every single player that comes up. I think of what Jackson Holliday, how good he looked in spring training last year, and then suddenly the bell rang, and this is a hard league. It is really hard to hit. But I think Junior looked more polished. He certainly looked more polished defensively than I was expecting. Kevin Cash was pumping the brakes on the excitement about Junior privately when Junior came up last year, saying, look, the kid's young. He's got a lot to learn defensively from what we hear. And lo and behold, he was really, really solid defensively. And offensively, it's going to come in fits and spurts and then perhaps have a breakthrough. But to me, when he makes contact, and he has a pretty mature eye at the plate also, I think you could see him in some amazing things. And to me, though, Christopher Morel has got to be a little bit better. Josh Lowe has got to be better. Johnny DeLuca has got to be better. And I think now that he's got the center field job mostly to himself, I know there will be some platooning and some rearranging out there, but generally he's going to be the center fielder. But, to me, the years, TKras, where the Rays have gotten good, it wasn't because they went out and made a huge splash in the free agent market. Rays fans know that's not generally how they tend to do it. But it's from the guys that they have, the patience that they have with them, finally bearing fruit. And if that happens, then this Rays team could be very, very good because pitching-wise, I think we're in about as good a shape as we've been for a while.
And we'll get into that in a matter of moments. We'll talk with Andy Freed, Rays radio play-by-play man here on The Drive. So Eric Neander's a smart guy, and he knows, like you mentioned, he can't go out there and spend $765 million on Juan Soto. I'm guessing the Rays offer came slightly under that. I don't know. That's just a joke. But, he's probably a guy who's thinking, okay, look, I've got maybe the number one farm system. I've got all these prospects. I've got a surplus of pitching. Is it possible that he takes a couple of these assets and he goes and he tries to find somebody under team control, power hitting left fielder? I'm thinking like a corner infielder or a corner outfielder, some guy with some pop, and he'll probably make a trade and bring somebody in. Do you see that maybe taking place?
I saw a name listed in one of Mark Topkins' columns from the, what does he call it, lobby rumors or whatever it is from the winter meetings. And, he brought up the name Jock Peterson. Now, there's some things he can do and some things he can't do, but I love the idea of, whether it's him or not, I like the idea of bringing in a guy that has won in other places. I always think back to the 08 team, and I think what made that team special is that they brought in some veteran guys. And, generally the Rays are a rather young team, whether it be on the mound or at the plate. I'd love to see some sort of veteran presence. I'd love to see a guy like him that has power, that has won with a bunch of different teams, that seems to have a swagger to him. Because last year I think there were times that the Rays lost some of that. So, I don't have a full list of free agency. Generally, it tends to be late in free agency that the Rays make those signs or from trades. And look at what the Red Sox did today. They traded 4 top 15 prospects, or was it 5? Either 4 or 5 to get Garrett Crochet. I don't think the Rays are willing necessarily to do that because their farm system is that good and they have to rely on that. But I do think it will tend to become more of a trade situation than a free agency situation. That being said, the Rays are very unpredictable when it comes to that sort of thing. And as Eric says, when you think we're going to go left, sometimes we go right. So nothing would surprise me. I mean, I know we've been told internally that, money-wise, in terms of the payroll for the team, the Rays were in really good shape. A lot of the work that was going to be done this offseason was done at the trading deadline last year. So I think they could probably take on some, depending on who it is and depending on what the fit would be.
We're talking with Andy Freed about all things Rays, and you talked about the pitching, and you just have to admire what Eric Neander did in terms of turning over this Rays bullpen. They traded Jason Adam. We know Pete Fairbanks got hurt, and then Mason Montgomery looked about as dominant as you could possibly be. I think he's got a very bright future. Edwin Uceta, Manuel Rodriguez, Hunter Biggie. So he turned over and transformed that bullpen, and all those guys can throw 98. And then the starting pitching, we got a big name coming back in Shane McClanahan. I'm sure he's like a caged tiger. I talked to Ryan Pepio a couple of weeks ago. I had him in studio. He's like, dude, you have no idea how anxious and excited Shane McClanahan is in terms of getting back at 2025 and proving that he's still one of the top pitchers in baseball. And he's going to anchor a rotation that's going to be about as good as anybody, right, Andy?
7 starters. I really don't. That's why I think they might be able to trade one. Now, that being said, to me, you can never have enough pitching, especially because there's going to be innings limits on some of these guys. In particular, Shane. What that number is, I don't have a clue right now, sitting here in early December. But the pitching wise, it's very, very mouth-watering to what it could look like this year. I mean, to me, the guy that. Boy, he showed us in about a 2-month span, Taj Bradley, what he can be. And then it slipped back a little bit. So it shows you that it's in there. I think Boz increased, to me, got me more excited than what I thought he was going to be. I thought he looked really, really good and was efficient. Jeffrey Springs was inconsistent coming off Tommy John, but that's why, to me, Shane McClanahan, I as excited as I am to bring him back, remember, he hasn't pitched in so long that you got to give these guys time. When Jeffrey Springs came back, and we're all saying the right stuff as well, he's not even necessarily a hard thrower, but it's not that coming back from Tommy John. It's about finding the touch and the feel and the command. If you can throw 99, that's great, but if it's not going where you want it to go, then it really doesn't matter a whole lot. So it took Jeffrey some time, and I want to give Shane that time to build in to being hopefully what he once was. This is his second one of these, so it can take time. Overall, I think the Rays will be really good on the run prevention side. I'd like to see them get better defensively, and that's why I'd like to see if Taylor Walls can hit just a little bit more, because, man, I think him at short and DeLuca in center are two guys that can really help anchor the defense. They just have to hit a little more.
They just have to hit a little more. If they can do that, they will likely be back in the playoffs once again. So I had John Smoltz on the show the other day. It was a really intriguing conversation. And I asked him about Juan Soto, 15 years, $765 million. And I ask you, your first reaction when you heard those numbers, Andy. I mean, these are just off the charts, these numbers.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it all ends up being like monopoly money. I mean, it's just like $760 million or $750 or $780 or, I mean, to me, it all just kind of blurs together. I really don't concern myself with how much a certain guy is making. And to me, and being around baseball teams now for 30 plus years, it's more than one offensive player that can make you get over the top. Now, he's a tremendous hitter. I hated facing him. But the Yankees really do take a hit there, because there was only two guys in the Yankee lineup all year that really frightened you, and it was Soto and Judge. And you could see when Judge went sour in the World Series, and there's only so much Soto can do. So, the year 15 years. I don't know. I like to think if I were an owner, I don't think I would commit that. It just never really seems to work out the way you'd want it to. So that's just my own opinion, but I'm not an owner. And I think in being around the Rays now, you look at those teams in 08 and 10 and 11 and 12 and 13 and 19 and forward, none of them were teams that were going to break the bank. All of them were teams that knew how to play the game. And to me, those are the teams that ended up winning. To me, it's about run prevention. And, Soto can only come up 1 out of every 9 times. And, you look at the Angels, how good were they when they had 3 superstars in their lineup? It still wasn't enough, because they weren't good at the other aspects of the game. They had Pujols, Ohtani, and Trout at the same time and never won a darn thing. So, to me, it's good for Soto. That's great. He and Lindor form a fantastic pairing. But we'll just have to see how much better it makes the Mets. I'm just glad he's out of the AL East.
Yeah, me too. 15 years is a long time to commit to one player. All right, I'll get you out on this, Andy Free. Give me one guy that you think next year could take that next step for the Rays. Maybe it's a guy that we're not talking nearly enough about. Is there a guy?
I really want to think that Josh Lowe is going to come back and have the kind of year he had 2 years ago. The Rays going into last season, we're expecting the same kind of jump that he had from 22 to 23 into 23 and 24. It did not work out. So, I don't know exactly what the issues were. There were times that he looked lost to the plate, and other times it looked like he was about to get going again. But being around Josh, I know he's a hard worker, and I know that he's really committed to being one of the big team leaders on this team. So I've got a lot of faith in Josh Lowe. There's a reason why I was a number 1 pick. And look, guys don't always necessarily get better in a linear way, where all of a sudden they get better. Sometimes you have years where there are steps back. But I just think if the Rays are going to be anything that we think that they can be with how good the run prevention is going to be, then Josh Lowe becoming a better hitter like he was 2 years ago, I think will make this team jump leaps and bounds.
He's Andy Freed, Rays Radio. Before you know it, pitchers and catchers will report to spring training coming up in early February, and then we can dust off some of our good sound drops like this one from Kevin Cash, Andy.
Even though you everything we do.
Or I got your boy Neil Solondz.
Do it. Neil's already already worried about something for this team. I could guarantee.
He already is. I mean, he's got his binoculars ready, and we will see. We will see you guys very soon, Andy. Have a great rest of your off season, pal.
Always great talking to you.
Great. Thank you, Andy. That's Andy Freed. Great stuff there. Oh, boy. Yeah, Josh Lowe. And, we had Josh Lowe on the show toward the end of last year, and he talked about how disappointing it was. He's like, yeah, man. He goes, I'm not happy with myself. I'm not happy with the injuries, the inconsistent play. He vowed to get in great shape in the offseason, and he's going to come back next year. And I think Andy's right. I think he is going to come back next year. And the Rays are going to need him. They're going to need him. They're going to need Brandon Lau. They're going to need Junior Caminero. Those are the three guys that you're banking on that can get this offense going in the right direction. But it's not going to be enough. Eric Neander has to make a move. And he's not going to sign a free agent. That's not going to happen, at least not right now. Maybe in late January when the prices come down on one of these guys. Jock Peterson is certainly a very interesting guy. But I think more likely than not, the Rays are going to make a trade for somebody. And it's going to be somebody that has team control, that the Rays will have some control over, because if they're going to give up some of their prospects, they're going to give up prospects for a guy that they want to have around for quite a few years, not a rent-a-player. 888-546-4620, that's the phone number. You can text in at 82945 on the Bartow 4DA text platform. Don't forget, Mathis movie trivia coming up just after 5 o'clock on Christmas vacation. You can play along as well. Would you rather at 5:30? We'll take you into 7 o'clock. When we come back to the Buccaneers. They've got a tough test Sunday in L.A., but the Bucs might get a break. There are some injuries that the Chargers are dealing with, and there are late-breaking developments on that coming your way next.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
Guys, on this ride home, be very careful on the roadways, because as I found out, an injury accident can happen to anyone, and if it happens to you the way it happened to me, you got to do what I did. Call on Catania and Catania, the personal injury law firm that's been doing their thing for 30 years. They work on a contingency, which means it's no cost to you unless they win, and they've been doing plenty of winning over the years. Almost $1 billion with a B has been recovered by my guys for injury victims just like you. So they're protecting my rights. They can protect your rights as well. So give them a call should the worst occur. Here's the number, 813-222-8545, or get a free evaluation of your case online at CataniaandCatania.com. That's 813-222-8545.
Don't just pay. PayPal.
Cruise control activated. This is The Drive with TKras, courtesy of Moss Nissan, live on WDAE.
No, I don't think so. I think it's hard every week. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to get a win in the NFL. So this is just another challenge for us. So same as last week and the week before. So each week will always be a challenge for us.
Vita Vea and the Buccaneers getting set to head west, young man, where Sunday, Bucs and the Chargers, 4:25 out in L.A. Welcome back. The Drive with yours truly, 4:36 on your ride home in this Would You Rather Wednesday. The sun is out. Boy, it was gloom and doom this morning. Cold front moving through with showers and storms, some much colder air coming in behind it. So hope all of you are having a great hump day here on the show. Coming up, Mathis movie trivia just after 5 o'clock, and then Would You Rather at 5:30. So the Bucs are back on the practice field, and we know about their injuries. You know, Antoine Winfield Jr. is going to be out for a couple more weeks. That's a shame. The good news is that Tyke Smith came back, and he made a very big play down there in the red zone against Brock Bowers, got an interception. And look, the Bucs are fighting. Are they a great team? No. Are they fighting? Hell yeah, they are. And I thought Brock Bowers was held down thanks to Todd Bowles and the scheme that he dialed up against him on Sunday. So you got to give Todd Bowles some credit, even though some of you won't for whatever reason. The injury update, we don't have the official injury report out, but according to the Chargers beat reporters out west, it doesn't look like Justin Herbert is going to practice today. He's got an ankle issue. He hurt it during the Chargers game against the Chiefs last week. It was a heartbreaker. So Jim Harbaugh was asked today whether Justin Herbert will practice. He goes, we'll see. I'd like to give him some rest, but Justin, I don't control him. Sometimes he looks at me and he goes out there, and a lot of the times it's good for him. He's one of those type of guys where football is the treatment, is the medicine, and I get that. Harbaugh loves Justin Herbert, and that was one of the main reasons why he got that job. He actually wanted the Bears job, but the Bears, being the morons that they are, I don't think so. He's a control freak. Ryan Poles and the other stiff that they have up there in the front office, Kevin Warren. I would fire all those guys right now. Are you kidding me? What an awful decision that was. Jim Harbaugh played for you. He's a tremendous coach. You had the number 1 overall pick. You see what he's doing for Justin Herbert. He would do the absolute same thing for Caleb Williams. And the reports were out there that Jim Harbaugh wanted that job, and the Bears said, we don't want you here. Oops. Idiots. But he goes to the Chargers. He loves Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert loves him, and that appears to be a marriage made in heaven. But the Chargers are also dealing with some injuries. Their run game the last 2 weeks since J.K. Dobbins got hurt has not been very good. They're averaging 3.6 yards a carry over their last 2 games. Gus Edwards is their primary back, and he's not going to frighten anybody. He's no Bucky Irving, I can tell you that. Bucky is Bucky, man. Bucky the Buccaneer, he's tremendous. But the Chargers' run game is taking a little bit of a hit over the last couple of weeks. So Justin Herbert doesn't look like he's going to practice much today, if at all, but he should be good to go on Sunday. Ladd McConkey is practicing. He missed last week's game against the Chiefs. The rookie second-round pick out of Georgia is their leading receiver. So that's a guy. Will Dissly is not practicing. Also, according to Daniel Popper, who covers the Chargers for The Athletic, Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack are not practicing as well, but they were seen in the weight room working out. So, look, it's Wednesday. When you get to Friday and nobody's practicing all week long, then it's more of a concern. But Justin Herbert not practicing, That's something. And we'll see how it goes tomorrow. I think he will play on Sunday. It's important for the Chargers to get Ladd McConkey back because that guy's a difference maker. He's really good, runs great routes. And if Will Dissly's going to be out, they're certainly going to need him. They have Quentin Johnston, another receiver. That guy's inconsistent at best. I mean, he's got all the talent in the world to be a really good receiver, but he'll drop some easy ones. And then I watched it last week against the Chiefs, and then he makes this extraordinary catch over the middle where he gets clobbered, and he drew a flag for a personal foul call against Kansas City. And then you have Joshua Palmer, who's a deep threat of theirs. So their offensive line, they took Joe Alt in the first round, number 5 overall pick. They got Rashawn Slater. They had Zion Johnson. So it's a young, ascending offensive line. Their weak link, from what I saw last week, was their right guard, Trey Pipkins, and maybe that's a guy that Vita Vea can take advantage of. Kalijah Kancey can take advantage of that guy. And that's where the Buccaneers might have a little bit of an edge. But, it should be a difficult game. Good quarterback, tremendous coach, very good defense. They do have some injuries that are bothering them. And, if you're the Buccaneers, you got to go in there. And as I mentioned before, you're Baker Mayfield. Last 2 weeks, he has not played clean football. There's been some good, some bad, some Jekyll and Hyde out of Baker Mayfield. You can't have that this week. You got to have good Baker. No mistakes if the Buccaneers are going to pull this off. All right, more of your calls and texts coming up. When we come back here on the program, there is an update on Bill Belichick and his flirtation, not with his girlfriend, but with the University of North Carolina. And that,
No.
what?
You insulted him a little bit.
Yeah, he's been flirting with her. I'd flirt with her, too. I mean, she's what? Like 1/3 his age? What is she, like 25, 26?
I thought she was 24.
And he's 72. You must have a really vibrant personality if you're Bill Belichick to get a 24-year-old, a chick in her mid-20s, to hop on board.
That or money, Tom. That or money.
Well, what do you think there, Playboy? He's 72. What's going to make a 24-year-old chick hop on board? Figuratively and literally. It's not his vibrant personality. There must be, some piles of cash that can cushion that fall a little bit. All right, it's a children's program, so I won't go much further than that. But when we come back, there is an update. Is it possible that he might get this job? The latest news on that coming up next here on The Drive.
You're tuned in to The Drive with TKras.
Whether it's a car accident, motorcycle accident, truck accident, product liability, or medical malpractice, if you or someone you love happens to be the victim of an injury accident, do what I did. Call Catania & Catania, the personal injury law firm that's been doing their thing the last 3 decades. They don't get paid unless you get paid, and they will always have your back. They've got my back since the accident. They check in with me periodically. I go to physical therapy. They're like, okay, here's where we stand. How do you feel? They're awesome like that, and they'll have your back as well. So give them a call. Tell them I sent you. Here's the number. You may want to copy it down and save it into your phone. 813-222-8545. That's 813-222-8545. Save it into your phone because you might need it one day, or you get a free evaluation of your case online at